Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel where today we're going to take a look at my Week 17 NFL Power Ranking / tier list. And we're going to have a new number one team this week for the first time in a while. First, let's go ahead and go over the tiers. Tier 1 is Super Bowl contenders. Basically, the top 3 or 4 teams I think in the league. True Super Bowl contenders. Number 2 is division. These are all the division winners that I believe ranked in order of their ability to go far in the playoffs. 3 is wildcard teams. All teams in wildcard positions ranked in that tier. Then we got mid teams, kind of on the playoff bubble in the hunt right now. Kind of just like could make a run, but also is out of it too. Then we got the bad teams. Teams are not like outright awful, but just not good enough to be in a playoff position right now. And then we have tanking tier, which is like the worst of the worst teams right now. So let's go and get started with the Arizona Cardinals, who after losing to the Bears, they are in tanking tier again. They kind of been there all year, even with the ability that they have with Kyler Murray. They're still one of the worst teams of football. Only the second worst record right now in the NFL. In line for the number 2 overall pick, though, which is good. But yeah, no, they lost to the Bears 27-16. Pretty not great there. So they're in the tanking tier as well. The Falcons are going to be moving up to mid right now, currently on the outside looking in at both their division and the wild card spot. But a pretty impressive showing against another playoff hopeful in Indianapolis, beating them 29-10. Bijan Robinson had a good day. Kyle Pitts had a good day. Defense played really well against the Colts, which is good. And they picked up a really key win, as in the playoff race, they're currently the 9 seed ahead of Green Bay and New Orleans due to tiebreakers, but still a game back of Seattle and Rams. So not looking too good there for their playoff odds, and they're also a game back of the Buccaneers as well. So, but Atlanta, if they use the offense right, they could be a good team, but that's never actually happens. Next up, new number 1 team, Baltimore. Absolutely demolished the San Francisco 49ers, who I think everyone has as a number 1 team. This defense forced 5 turnovers, actually. They had 5 interceptions in the game, 4 done by Brock Purdy, 1 by Sam Darnold. And this Ravens offense did the best they could with it, and they scored 33 points on a really good San Francisco defense. And it's just insane what they were able to do on prime time. And right now, they're the number 1 team in the NFL. I don't think there's any question about that now. So there's that. Next up, we got the Buffalo Bills, who at 9-6 are now back in the wild card. And this is not a team anyone wants to face right now, because they've been playing really, really good football. Really good football. They're still alive for their division still, but Buffalo's most likely going to be a wild card team, and no one, I think, will ever want to face them in the playoffs. And right now, they're doing pretty darn well, so they're up there in wild card tier. Still in tanking tier, but they had the benefit of playing against a Joe Barry defense, is the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young had the best game of his career. They scored 30 points for the first time all season, but I will have to put an asterisk by those performances due to them playing the Packers defense, which almost every quarterback gets a career game off of now. So there is that. But take the hope when you can, Panthers fans. Take the hope where you can. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears, currently sitting at 6-9. I'm still going to put them in bad because they're like more than a game back for a wild card berth, but they took care of business against the Panthers. And so still making the question very interesting of what they do with the number 1 pick they're going to get from Carolina. But Chicago, still not great. Your defense is playing pretty well, but I want to see a little bit more out of you, especially out of Justin Fields. So down there, bad. Another team kind of in the mid territory, suffering a pretty brutal loss to the Steelers, is the Cincinnati Bengals, currently at 8-7. That was a brutal loss for the playoff chances here, but especially to a division rival in Pittsburgh, who has now jumped them in the standings. It's going to make it a lot harder for the Bengals to make the playoffs in this very, very crowded AFC playoff picture. But still a lot A lot more impressive than I thought they were going to be after Joe Burrow went down. So Cincinnati's up there in mid. Up, really, really impressing me, Cleveland. That defense absolutely shut down the Texas offense. Granted, it was against Case Keenum and David Mills. Not really great quarterbacks, but still. What they did to Houston was very interesting as well. But I want to talk about where the heck did this Joe Flacco come from? He has been looking really good. Best quarterback they started all year is a 39-year-old Joe Flacco. His connection to Amari Cooper has been fantastic. And all I gotta say, if a 39-year-old Joe Flacco leads the Browns to a Super Bowl victory, he belongs in the Hall of Fame just because he led the Browns to the Super Bowl. But the way his defense has been playing, that could happen. Especially in the AFC where they already beat the Ravens once. They can beat the Chiefs, they can beat the Dolphins, and it's very possible that the Browns can make a deep playoff run. And with how bad they looked at offense sometimes this year, that's really impressive. Good on you, Cleveland. Good on you. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who lost to Miami and now dropped to the wild card spot. They're going to need some help to win that division. And I have them behind the Browns because this is like another scenario where they played a good team and they couldn't seal the deal. And that's just what we always see from Dallas. And it's very, very concerning because they lost to the Bills, lost to the Dolphins. And now, who do they play next? They play the Lions next week. And that, the Lions are going to be going for that number 1 seed. So that's going to be a rough matchup for Dallas. And I don't expect them to win that. But still a wild card team, still playing good football. I just think they could be very much a one and done in the playoff this year. Next up is Denver. Nah, you're in bad. You lost to the Patriots on a walk-off field goal. You're 7-8. You're now third in your division behind the Raiders. And no, you lost to the Patriots. You belong down there, so eat it. Eat it. A team I'm actually going to move up to Super Bowl tier is Detroit. Yeah, the Detroit Lions, I think, can make a deep playoff run to make the Super Bowl. The way that Dan Campbell has his team fired up and fighting for him, it is very much possible. So, yeah, moving Detroit up. They beat the Vikings. They got the Vikings again in Week 18. And they're playing for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. So, I do think that the Lions can make it and make the Super Bowl tier. Really, really do. Even though technically I will rank them in mid, Packers are going in bad. Because, as you saw in my earlier video this week about my reaction to the Panthers game, Joe Barry needs to be fired into the sun immediately. He needs to be relieved of his duties. This defense is quitting on him, and I don't blame them at all for the stupidity that he calls. Gave out 30 points to the Panthers and made Bryce Young look like the number 1 pick he should have looked all year. And that is embarrassing. Embarrassing. Jordan Love had a good game. He's been playing well these past 2 weeks. The offense is really coming together, but this defense is holding this team back. We need to do the right thing in the offseason and get an actual defensive coordinator who's going to challenge these guys, challenge Matt LaFleur in his thinking, and get this team on the right track. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So Green Bay is in bad. Mid, going to be Houston. Just a really bad loss. They need C.J. Stroud back healthy to win this, get into playoffs. They got stomped by Cleveland. And, yeah, it's just really, really unfortunate for them. Next up is Indianapolis, technically the wild card team, but, man, that looked rough again against Atlanta. Still 8-7, still overachieving this year, which is good for them. But this 7th seed is going to be a very weak seed. Let's just say that. In division tier, Jacksonville, though just barely, just by default up there, they got stomped by the Buccaneers. And they're not looking good. They're on a backward slide. All 3 of these AFC South teams are on a backward slide right now. Don't really know who's going to take this division, but Jacksonville is looking really, really rough right now. And speaking of looking rough, Kansas City, what is happening to you? Currently sitting at 9-6. They looked terrible against the Raiders. The Raiders had 62-yard passing yards all game, and they still lost because of 2 defensive turnover touchdowns by the Raiders. And it's just sad seeing this. And I just don't understand what's going on here at all. Next up is the Chargers, sitting at 5-10, second worst team in the AFC. They're on the precipice of getting down to tanking. It's really, really, really bad right now. Really bad. It just shows how much they miss Justin Herbert with how bad they've been these past few weeks. And I just hope that the next head coach isn't an idiot like Brandon Staley. That's all I got to say. The Rams, in the wild card tier right now, playing some really good football of late. Currently at 8-7, the 6th seed right now. They're playing pretty solid. They're doing pretty good. So, not much to say. Matt Stafford's been playing good. Puka Nacua has been fantastic. And they're showing why we should not have given up on them after an injury-riddled season last year after they won the Super Bowl. So, good on you, LA. Good on you. The team I'm actually going to move up to mid this week at 7-8 is the Las Vegas Raiders. This team has been playing hard since Antonio Pierce became the head coach. They just beat the Chiefs. They out-physicaled them. That defense played really, really dang good. And there's a scenario where they could make a run here. Let's see. They play the Colts and the Broncos, two teams that are also in the playoff mix. It's possible the Raiders can make the playoffs. Not really saying it's going to happen, but a lot of respect to you guys. A lot of respect. Another team I'm putting in the Super Bowl contending tier, Miami. They just beat the Cowboys. The offense I wasn't too impressed with. I was impressed by that defense and how they handled the really kind of high-flying Cowboys offense. Really, really impressed there. And so if you get that kind of complementary football between the offense and defense, get them fired on the same page, very dangerous team. Still on the edge of division and in Super Bowl, but still, good team. Vikings, mid. Really starting to show a decline here with the quarterback play. 7-8, they lost to the Lions, and they got two really, really important games coming up against the Packers this week, and then they play the Lions again. If they have any shot of making playoffs, they have to win both, and that's going to be hard because the Lions are going to be fighting for that number 1 seed, and the Packers are fighting for the playoff lives. So, not looking too good for you there, Minnesota. Not looking too good. New England, still in tanking tier, but they won against the Broncos. Pretty good effort there. They're 4-11. I'm just going to put them above the Cardinals. But, yeah, not that good there. Not that good. New Orleans, another team I'm kind of putting in mid 7-8 here. They lost to the Rams on Thursday Night Football in kind of a close matchup between two playoff contending teams. It's not going to be their year. I mean, it's just not. So, New Orleans in mid. Giants. The Giants. 5-10. Putting them at the edge of bad. They played hard against Philadelphia. They got within 8 points, which is pretty good. They had the best time in DeVito and put in Tyrod Taylor, though. And Tyrod Taylor looked a lot better. But they're fighting, so not too bad there. They are eliminated from playoff contention, but they're fighting. That's all I got to say there. The Jets, moving to 6-9, had a pretty big lead over the Commanders, but then just almost blew it. They won 30-28 because Jacoby Brissett came in and dominated. So really concerning there. They're eliminated from the playoffs. Rodgers is not going to fix this team. I don't wouldn't be surprised if Salah is out because it's just been that abysmal of an offensive performance. Going back up to division, Philadelphia, the current leading the NFC East right now. They barely beat the Giants. That they let them kind of come back there in the end. Really kind of concerning there. Jalen Hurts still hasn't looked right all year, but still division tier. They're still going to make the playoffs, but seeding is going to be very interesting in the NFC. So Philadelphia is there. Pittsburgh, another team in mid. Really good performance against the Bengals on Christmas Eve. Of course, Rudolph had to win on Christmas Eve, but yeah, it's just really interesting because I don't know if they're the best team in wild card in the mid tier right now, but they definitely play like it. There's still a chance the Eagles can make the playoffs. I really doubt that's going to happen though, but you don't know. You never know with this team, and you know they're going to be above 500, so that's just how it goes. Seattle, wild card. Pretty good performance with Geno Smith. They were able to win the game and become the 7th seed in the wild card race after falling behind early against Tennessee. So, good for you, Seattle. Don't know how well you're going to play in the playoffs, but good for you. Good for you. Still in Super Bowl contender is the San Francisco 49ers. They just got punched in the mouth. It was about time another team came and punched them in the mouth because every team kind of needs that every once in a while. And this was their turn to be punched. The Ravens came in and dominated them on offense. They out-physicaled them. They shut down that offense pretty good. Forced a lot of mistakes by San Francisco. And they looked off all night. This is not really a team that can play from behind. I'm concerned a little bit about that defense. Concerned a little bit about the offense. But overall, I think they'll still be fine. I still think they're the favorites to come out of the NFC. And we could have a rematch in the Super Bowl between them and Baltimore. Next up is Tampa Bay, who I'm actually going to put above Kansas City because these past few weeks by Tampa Bay, they've looked really impressive. Had a strong performance against the Packers. They beat the Falcons a couple weeks ago, and they outright dominated the Jacksonville Jaguars. Baker Mayfield has his team playing really, really good football. They got a pretty nice schedule heading down the stretch with the Saints and the Panthers to end the year. And their offenses look fantastic. There's no doubt about that to me. So, Tampa Bay, I think, is a very underrated team right now. And let's say they play the Cowboys in the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay takes that matchup. That's how good I think they're playing. Next up, we got Tennessee. I don't really know where to put them. They're currently sitting at 5-10. At the end of bad. They're competitive. They're not outright awful. So, Ryan Tannehill had to come back in for injured Will Levis. They almost beat Seattle, but defense is playing good. You still got King Henry, but they're just not a very good football team right now. It's kind of like a reset year for them. And Washington, they're in tanking. Not really a good performance from them. They almost came back because of Jacoby Brissett, but Sam Howell looked really, really rough. And I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from him in the offseason. Same thing with their coach, Ron Rivera. But, yeah, that's my tier list. In the Super Bowl, we got Baltimore, San Francisco, Detroit, Miami. Division, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Jacksonville. Wildcards, Cleveland, Dallas, Buffalo, LA Rams, Seattle, Indianapolis. Mid, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Houston, Atlanta, New Orleans, Minnesota, Las Vegas. Bad, Green Bay, Chicago, New York Jets, Denver, LA Chargers, New York Giants, Tennessee. And tanking is Washington, New England, Arizona, and Carolina. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you again very, very soon.